Hey everyone, it's James, and I'm doing my neighborhood project for my area of Centennial Hills. The location that I have is Goines Elementary. So for the food in my area, um, I received a 12 on my Retail Food and Environment Index. For the surrounding area, there were 12 fast food restaurants compared to only 4 sit-down restaurants. There's only one local grocery store, and it was a Smith's. There were 0 options for healthy food restaurants, and the nearest healthy food option was a Greens and Proteins located in a more popular area off the freeway, and it's 1.7 miles away. Um, Driving is like 5 minutes, but walking was 35 minutes. So for food continued, some supports to healthy eating included the surrounding environment. Despite the direct area around lacking farmers or produce markets, many of the more popular areas have these options. So to the north, there's a Sprouts, and to the south, there's a Natural Grocers. Some barriers to healthy eating included the lack of diverse food, so these options weren't really there for us. And then the distance to reach these better food options, we had many deserted areas. So some changes that I can propose are constructing safe and cleaner transportation routes, especially for traveling to these areas of better options. So the picture on the bottom left depicts um, a street with no sidewalk, and then the one on the bottom right, it depicts just a dirty area. It's not very approaching for anybody. And then just building and introducing more options within the area, especially considering the location. So if you look at the bottom left one again, you can see there's just open area right there on the corner of the street. Um, Maybe somebody can build something there. For the physical environment, the area was actually packed with parks. Just in the direct vicinity of the school, there were 3 public parks. All 3 can be found within just 2 streets of each other. So the first one is located directly next to the school. You would almost think that it's attached to it. The second one can be found just right over the bridge, and the third one can be found the other direction across the intersection. Now, each park consists of different things. So, for the Nature's Discovery or the Dinosaur Park, as it's quoted, it has a waterfall and a pond. The Aviary Park had baseball fields and a giant soccer field. And for the Deer Springs Park, it included basketball and volleyball courts. Now, all 3 parks had walking, jogging, and running trails. They had restrooms and exercise equipment, and playground and play areas for young kids. Now, the neighborhood is also full of intertwined neighborhood trails that can lead you from one park to another. These trails are made of concrete sidewalk, and they have the occasional green space at stops that can be used for doggy restrooms. They even have doggy trash cans and bags to pick up. Now, these are just 3 parks that were in the direct area, but there are plenty more that I didn't include. So these are just some of the images from the parks. The one on the left is the pond from the Nature's Discovery Park, and the one on the right is the playground from Deer Springs. So supports to activity. Um, Number one, it's simple. So I live very close. I live in the middle of pretty much all of this, so I could just get up and just left of where I live, there's a trail that I could get on within just a couple minutes of walking, and boom, just like that, I'm on these trails to these parks. Number two, it's safe and clean. So these areas are generally upkept by staff. If you look at the picture on the left, it looks nice, it looks clean. Number three is the amenities. So as I referenced the previous slide, there are a lot of amenities that make it meaningful to go to these parks. Number four is the benefits. So I know that working out is healthy, walking around is exercising, and also it's just calming. And for number five, it is free. What are the barriers? The only negative that I could actually think about was because these parks are so popular and so big and busy, it attracts a lot of people. So that might be just a barrier, which also indicates a good thing. Some improvements are not a lot, actually. I think this area is optimal. I believe that the surrounding area actually exceeds when it comes to the physical environment. There are a lot of parks, a lot of trails, a lot of greenery, and personally for me, I have no improvement. The bike ability. The bike score that my area received was a 59 out of 100. There are bike lanes located on some roads, but not all, especially atrial roads. There are only conventional bike lanes that signal the lane for bikes, but no barriers between the bike lane and traffic. They are located on both residential and atrial roadways. The speed limit for these arterial roadways are 35 miles per hour, and the speed limit on residential roadways is 25 miles an hour. Some of the supports and barriers. So, support would be signage. There are plenty of signals and street paintings to distinguish these areas, along with street signs. Um, the health in it, so exercising and enjoyment. Biking can be fun. I've biked before. There's plenty to see out there. For barriers, it can be dangerous. There is no physical barrier in between lanes of motor vehicle traffic and pedestrian or bicycle traffic. And inconsistency. Many of the bike lanes end abruptly, and bikers will have to merge with traffic or ride in the right lane of traffic, which I think is dangerous as well. So some design changes, I would include physical barriers. I have seen some places of Las Vegas that have caution poles to distinguish markers, but they also serve as a safeguard from motor vehicle traffic and separates them from bicycle traffic. And then buffered bike lanes, according to NACTO's Urban Bikeway Design Guide, one of the best changes would be a buffer zone. Now, this is used to provide more distance between traffic and pedestrians, and it's better for these arterial roadways. For walkability, I received a walk score of 68 out of 100 and transit score of 26 out of 100. The majority of the surrounding area has built sidewalks for pedestrian transportation. There are a few areas in between that lack sidewalks, but these areas are connected to freeways and highways or have no development. And the sidewalks are approximately 4 feet wide, and they do have curb cuts for crossing the road and for mobility devices. So some supports for this, I would say, were most of the sidewalks were in relatively good condition. There was enough space for multiple people, and there was easy access for the sidewalk. Some barriers was that lighting can be an issue. Some areas have motion sensor lights, not all of them work. Some don't have lights, or some that have lights that aren't working properly. And then shade is a big thing too in the desert. There is some tree coverage, but not everywhere. And then there's just obstacles like utility boxes and poles, or even bus benches. So there were a couple of transit stops on the bigger arterial roads. Many of the different bus stops location, there are plenty of them. Infrastructure included just plain metal benches connected into the sidewalk. There are a lot of signages. Some had shading for the bus stop and some didn't. And some stops had indentations for the bus to park in. Personally, because of the area, I do feel safe from traffic and crime. Despite the areas where it may seem incomplete, the surrounding area is typically nice. These are just some images. So on the left is just an image of the shading. It's just a bus stop. On the right is another bus stop, but no indication of it being a bus stop. And then right in the middle is just a picture of it not being the cleanest, but there are some clean areas. And then just some improvement. According to NACTO's Sidewalk Design Guide, I would suggest more overhead coverage from the heat. I would also suggest just greater space from pedestrian traffic to motor vehicle traffic. This includes NACTO's suggested sidewalk zones. Currently, our sidewalks are used as an all-in-one zone. Um, They're mainly used as a through zone, but there's no space for curb furniture or buffer zones.